will have gone.
Okay, so by the time you go to this point of saying that this is the way we want to go,
yes,
you must have done your own research, and you talked about Rwanda and Ethiopian Airlines stealing away some of our potential revenue.
Yes.
How much have we missed out on, or have we lost in light of this?
I gave out in percentages, and if you were to look at what I was doing in Parliament, I gave out in percentages. But really, let me tell you, Dan, we were actually losing. In my imagination, I was going to say, if KQ and everything is left as it is, we were not going to go for more than 1 year before Jomo Kenyatta crashes. I'll tell you this. And therefore, if Jomo Kenyatta crashes, then it will crash with the country. And what we were risking to lose as a people is that through Treasury, we had guaranteed as a people, of course through last Parliament, 11th Parliament, we had guaranteed as a people up to a tune of 75 billion to creditors of KQ. And therefore, the creditors and any other person, loanees and so on, of KQ were not going to lose. It was going to be the people of Kenya to lose. And that is why we had to rescue this situation while it is within our hands. So it is clearly. And why? Because when KQ was operating, and it's operating as a private airline, then they were not getting tax reliefs, and therefore the air ticket was expensive. And that is what the people of Kenya should expect from now going forward. That Kenya Airways, with now this boost, a serious boost, really structural and historic push, then the air tickets are going to be competitive. Competitive in the sense that KQ will not be more expensive than, for example, Emirates, than, for example, ET or Ethiopian Airlines, than, for example, Rwanda Airline. Can you imagine, Dan, if somebody is traveling maybe to even Mozambique, right, the Southern Africa countries, Kenyans, for example, private Kenyans, they prefer traveling through Air Rwanda, They will not. They don't prefer traveling KQ because KQ is more expensive. So they go through Kigali and then go to those countries. And that's a shame for ourselves. But now going forward, we have an opportunity because now we're going to give them reliefs. And then the fares of KQ will be more or less or even lesser than Air Rwanda. And therefore it makes our own Kenyans, who are in Africa, travel by choice, not by force of government. Because we MPs travel by force of government because we travel on KQ. But we want to, going forward, people in this country, including yourself, you now travel KQ by choice. Meaning what? Meaning that the prices of our air tickets are going to reduce because we will inject some assistance from the people of Kenya. It's going to be a good thing for this country. Number two, we'll have more networks. We now only have 53 in the whole world. While I told you about Ethiopia, more than 100. So we will have more choices of flying. Then number three, we'll also have more fleets. KQ will increase their fleets from 40 even to 100. Look at what's happening now. For your information, Jomo Kenyatta, New York line is very busy. We need now to increase even more fleets so that more people can go to America. Because now there's more interest. People from Africa are coming to Nairobi, and then from Nairobi to go to America. So we need more planes. We cannot have more planes in the same arrangement that we had yesterday. And thank God to Parliament that now it's given them a new lease of life. Then we can get more planes and you can travel to America. That is what it means. And more people come to this country. More jobs, that's what it means, Dan. Okay. More of our young people getting jobs. Because when you open networks, we will have marketing officers in those countries. And those are our people. That's Kenyans. More jobs for young people.
Okay, and one of the things that, the end user,
yes.
When you, aside from the regulatory and the senior management and the policy issues,
yes.
The person who boards those planes, and we've seen over the years, even if you just check either media coverage or even social media expressions,
yes.
There have been concerns about the quality of service at times by KQ. Some of the issues that have to do with delays, just things that. How soon do we expect to see a change in this? Because you see people even comparing what is served in KQ versus other airlines, the ones that you're mentioning, for instance. At what point will we see this turning around?
That's administrative, Dan, and that won't be my work.
No, what do you expect? Because you're putting in place a system and a structure, and you have your intended outcomes. Because ultimately, you're saying it's for the benefit of the
people of Kenya.
People of Kenya.
Yes.
Who are the ones who are? You're saying you want to travel with this mobile choice.
Yes.
So when do they expect? Ideally, in an ideal case, like you're saying, it's administrative. You cannot entirely control that. But in light of what you have proposed and what has been put in place,
my view, as I said, I gave you between now and 6 months. 6 months, 8 months. But entirely, you give it 2 years. to see all these things. But you can still see, because now what's going to happen? KQ, Kenya, KAA, the ministry will have to sit down, right, immediately, maybe even this week or next week, to say, this is what Parliament said. So what we call low-hanging fruits, or what we call quick fix. Now they can use our report and be able to point out what is quick fix. That's why I'm saying it's between 3 months and 6 months. Is when you can maybe even to analyze those quick fix. And if it requires some amendments, then they can bring to us. So that is within 6 months. And then the kind of a medium term is 2 years. So I will tell the people of Kenya for them to see, and what I'm looking at, Dan, for the people of Kenya. In terms of food, that will be KQ, and they're listening. They're also listening me now and listening you. That their food is not good. But I like their juice, by the way, myself. There is a tamarind juice, which I like in KQ. Because of course tamarind is grown in Pokot.
So you have your biases.
Natural. So yeah, I have my choice. Even when I was going to China, I really liked the tamarind. But that is administrative, what I'm saying. But so that we don't lose the compound picture. The compound picture is that KQ reduces the prices. That is basically number one. So how will they reduce the prices? They will be able to reduce their ticket prices should they get government reliefs, like taxes in their fuel and also their engines. So that now that can be translated into your air ticket. But at the moment they're not. But Ethiopian Airlines are getting those reliefs. Rwanda Airlines are getting those reliefs. Emirates are getting those reliefs. And that is why it looks like they're very cheap, because they are compensated in taxes. So how do they make their money? They make their money by flying you to Ethiopia and then make you spend. Let me tell you, Dan, and this is very good, and I hope millions of Kenyans are listening to me. Yeah. It is not actually primarily cheap. Well, it looks like by face value, for you to travel those airlines, they are cheap. But you know what happens? They will fly you to their country. They will not fly you direct to where you want to go. For example, if you want to go to New York using Emirates, you will not go from Nairobi to New York direct. You will have to go to where? To Dubai. To Dubai, yeah. If you go to Dubai, they will delay you for about 2 hours to make sure that you're hungry so that you eat. And you spend money in there. Look at Dubai Airport. Dubai Airport is like a big mall. You buy perfumes, you buy this, you buy that. That is how they make their money in Dubai. Then after 2 hours, they can now fly you to New York. That is how people make money in airlines. And that is why I'm saying it looks like it is cheap. But let me tell you, you go through Dubai, by the time you come back to our country, you're actually poorer than you were. So that is what we are saying now in KQ, and that is why we are having this big aviation company. So that we also make Jomo Kenyatta Airport as a mall. We make it a big mall, actually, in Jomo Kenyatta, so that people can fly. We can now increase our flight. At the moment, Dan, we have a capacity of holding about 7 million people in Jomo Kenyatta. Can you imagine? And in Bole International Airport in Ethiopia, they have a capacity of holding 22 million. That tells you where we are. Well, and business is not as usual. So we want this Jomo Kenyatta now to move from 7 million to 30 million, maybe in the next 10 or 15 years. So that we want to ask KQ, how many people have you brought to this country? And when they bring people to our country here in Kenya, we delay them for about 2 hours, so that then we can spend their money in Nairobi. In other words, Dan, in transport, we want to earn our money from what we call a multiply effect. Multiply effect means what? Means that we earn our money from the resultant, like tourism, people coming to spend in our country, people coming to open business in our country. And Dan, Nairobi is a UN headquarters, you know that. There are only four UN headquarters in the world. Nairobi, Vienna, Geneva, and New York. We are connected to 3. Geneva, New York, and Nairobi. Now we are looking to connect to Vienna. And we are good to go. But without KQ, we will lose even this headquarter, maybe even to Ethiopia or Rwanda very soon. That is the reason why Parliament, and I really appreciate with my colleagues, that is why Parliament said it is not going to be business as usual. We must rescue our country.
Okay. And when we talk about the aviation holding company that is part of the proposal,
yes.
As like you said, you'll merge. There'll be the part of KA that will be handling JKIA, then there'll be the part of KA that is going to be dealing with the other airstrips.
Fantastic.
Now, are we looking at job losses?
No job losses at all. If you look at our recommendation, and this is good, you have asked a very important question, Dan, because I'm sure there might be some in the airport. People are thinking, are we going to lose jobs because we are national or something like that? There's not going to be any job losses. In fact, we're creating more jobs. Like if you have created four subsidiaries, you require those 4 subsidiaries to be led by CEOs. In fact, this report of my committee's report is creating 2 positions of CEOs. one CEO for Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and one CEO to run the amalgamated college. Those are jobs. So where are the losses of jobs? There are no losses of jobs. KQ, we are now tasking them to open more networks, and even more frequencies. When you're opening more networks and more frequencies done, what does that mean? You require more personnel, and therefore you require more jobs. When we are asking KAA to maintain a serviceable airstrip in all 47 counties in this country, what does that mean? It means that actually we require personnel. No job loss at all. Nobody should expect that.
Okay, and in Kenya, unfortunately, we're in a time when there's a lot of corruption.
Yes.
And the attempts to prosecute those who are caught in graft. As you've seen, in a week when we're having one of the
yes.
possibly the most high-profile cases beginning in terms of corruption. What is being done to ensure that we can shield this body from being used for corruption? Because we've seen a lot of government institutions have been opportunities for people to feed themselves illegitimately at the expense of Monanchi. So what is being done to ensure that corruption is not going to find a seat at the table?
You see, Dan, what we are going to do in terms of corruption is what is being done. The institutions that are supposed to fight corruption should fight corruption. That is what it means, basically. In terms of shielding institutions and so on, to me, we will be asking for utopia. It's not going to be there, right? But of course, we need integrity in people and so on. In fact, what we are trying to say, in my understanding, is that we are trying to compare public and private. Say, look, if it's public, then it is more open to corruption. If it's private, then maybe it is lesser corruption. But let's look at the realities. Even at the moment, as I talk to you, KG was private. It's dying. So there's another corruption. We can also say there's another corruption. KQ is dying. If we were to live like this, maybe in the next 6 years or 6 months or less than a year, then KQ was going to collapse with our 75 billion as a people. What do you call that? Yet it's private. So what about when it's national? National is public. Then let us not run away from public, Dan. Let me tell you, we will be public forever. There might be some of those one or two people or individuals who are corrupt, and they will face the law. We have sufficient, in my view, we have sufficient laws to protect. But running away, so where are you running away? You're running away to who? So you want an angel to come and run the aviation company, or you want who to come and run an aviation company? Corruption is all over the world, but we are trying to minimize. So in my view, Dan, I have full confidence. We have done research as a committee in identifying and leading our country towards the right direction. We did a lot of public participation in this one. We asked a lot of people, including experts. We looked at what's happening in all those successful airlines. There are only three dying airlines, ourselves, Seychelles, and South Africa, and we're sharing the same model of private airline, not getting any government subsidies. And those are the two in different models that were dying. The rest, which are in government model, as I said earlier, all of them are successful. We looked at more than 20 airlines that are in the same model now that we are taking KQ. And therefore, in terms of corruption, we want to think that the people who are running, they will have to follow the law. And anybody found in corruption, then let him face the law.
Okay. And there's those who will say, like you mentioned, at times there's a case of corruption in the corporate,
yes,
which has then cost Monanchi a lot of money.
Yes.
And you find it seems like there may be a certain manager who will probably just leave the company, and their sins are not really paid for by the person themselves. It ends up being Monanchi paying for that person's sins. How do you reconcile that?
And that is why we are saying that in this private thing, which is now, of course, that we are moving into public, it should not be public that's paying alone. Even those private people must also meet the cost. And I'll tell you this, Dan. The reason maybe perhaps, if you allow me, the reason maybe even perhaps why the people of Kenya think that there is more corruption in public institution more than private is because, in my view, there's more scrutiny. There's more public scrutiny in public institutions than it is in private institutions. And I will tell you this. And Dan, I am expecting somebody to do a research, on all private companies in this country, and particularly within the insurance companies, right? Can somebody then do really a thorough research and tell us, in these private institutions and companies, how much does the CEO earn, for example? Let's just somebody just sit down and say, look, look at the CEOs and serious high management of those private companies. They are the biggest earners in this country. The people working in the public sector are not earning anything. In fact, by the way, they're not earning anything. But it is not open to public scrutiny. They earn money, for example, they earn salaries. These CEOs of these private companies and banks, they earn salary, and then from there they earn something called bonus, they earn something else, they earn something else. Accumulatively, you might find a CEO earning more than 5 million, 8 million, a CEO. And maybe even senior management, they're earning serious money, 3 million. There is no public sector. The president himself does not even earn 2 million in this country, in public sector. Myself as an MP, I'm not earning that amount of money. What am I trying to say, Dan? Isn't that not corruption? Because the question is, where do these companies get money? They get money from the people of Kenya, you and me, living in this country. That is how they make their money. So look at ICT companies, the commercial companies, insurance companies, any company in this country. Take the first 5 employees, give us how much they're earning. Let me tell you, that is where I will think that will be the second level of corruption. They might be the worst corrupt than even the people of Kenya themselves or public institutions. The public institutions are open to public scrutiny. What about the others? So what do you call when somebody is earning 8 million done in this country, and this money is earned from you? It's not like it's coming from heaven and dangled in this country. It comes from the transaction I have, the transaction you have, and the people of Kenya. And then one person is earning more than 8 million, 5 million, 6 million, blah, blah. To me, that is a corruption.
Is that why MPs want more allowances?
No, not really. Not really. In fact, we don't want more allowances. We want our right.
Which is?
If, for example, of course, what you're talking about, in my view, unless you correct me, you're talking about house allowance.
House allowance, night out allowance?
No. There's nothing called night out allowance. That's wrong. That's creation of the media. You know, let me tell you, parliament, media without parliament, or media having no parliament, there's no news. So you must have some parliamentarians talking about something to create news. But in my view, that we're losing the point. The point is, of course, if it is house allowance, let me tell you, Dan, why is it then negative to parliamentarians to have a house allowance, and it's not negative for the other state officers to have a house allowance? The others are also exposed to mortgage. Yes, some Kenyans say, but the MPs have mortgage. Yes, I have mortgage, but it's not compulsory. It's a choice. And if I take that mortgage, you know how much I pay? I pay almost all my salary, you know, in that mortgage. But other public servants have mortgage, but they also have house allowance to service their houses. So what is it where is a sin done for you having a salary? You have a salary, and in that salary, of course, you have house allowance. For us, we don't have a house allowance. So what is the problem? We are not asking for too much or extra. We are asking for what we are entitled to by the Constitution, by the laws that govern everybody. This is a human right, Dan. We're not asking for anything more. No. And we are doing a lot anyway for the country, for our own people. But now, you look at me, parliamentarian is getting maybe 250,000 house allowance. What about those CEOs of private companies which are earning from our own people? How much are they earning? I want you to do that, Dan. I want to ask this house, the most credible media house in this country, which is NTV, can they do what I'm telling you? And then play to the people of Kenya. All private companies in this country, the first top 5 people. All banks in this country, the top 5 people. How much they are earning? To me, I will come with the second definition of corruption.
What if their financials allow?
What do you mean by financial? Where do they get the money?
It's from they would argue that, you know, they've worked hard. For instance, look at the case of Safaricom,
yes,
which even, you know, like the competitors are talking about, yes, dominance, but they said, yes, are you punishing us for being successful?
No.
And so they have been able to, we speak on phone, we are using data, etc., and they get to make their billions of shillings in net profit and all over 200 billion shillings, yes, in revenue.
Yes.
Wouldn't that accommodate?
No, let me tell you, yes, before you reach there, where do they get the money?
From Kenyans.
Exactly. If we are getting from Kenyans and everybody is getting from Kenyans, then in my view, in my thinking, in my own personal thinking, it is immoral. It is true. You know. Let me tell you, Dan.
But Kenyans have not been coerced to spend. It's a choice.
That's why I'm saying it is a choice. But it means that actually you are actually we are overpaying as a people. Then, if they are earning that 6 million and they justify that 6 million, then we are overpaying. We are overpaying as a people. And then if that is a telecom companies and we are paying 5 shillings per minute, and then actually we are actually being stolen. It should not be 5 shillings. In my view, it should be then 1 shilling. It should be. Let me tell you, you cannot come to this country. This is me as Pkosing, not the chairman of transport.
Yes.
As an individual, Honorable Pkosing, representing the people of Pokos South. I am saying, You cannot come earn money from this country. In my view, you cannot come and earn money from this country and declare, for example, that, okay, you're earning 8 million and you're working hard. No, you are milking the people of Kenya. We should now look and say, look, you know what, how much are you charging per that service? So if you are charging maybe 5 shillings and you're earning 8 million, the people of Kenya should have actually paid 1 shilling. It is true. Because this is our country. So how do you come and now tell us, you know, and no.
We should put you on a panel with some of these corporates.
I will be very happy to come. And they must, before I come, they must demonstrate how much they earn. They must tell you and the people of Kenya how much they earn. And where do they get that money? They get from Manjigo, they get from Chesang, they get from Dan, they get from everybody else, even if it is voluntary. What do you mean by voluntary? It might not be voluntary. So how do you ask me to get, if the service is just that service, and that I must get that service, how do you say that it's voluntary? I'm being forced.
Because, say I want to communicate.
Yes.
No one has forced me.
Yes.
That I have to buy. I can choose to or not to, because we're saying that.
So where do I go? If no, it's not. Let me tell you, you are looking at this very simplistically. For me, as representing the people of Kenya in my constituency, you are looking at this simplicity. What do you mean by saying it's a choice to make a communication? If I want to reach my people in constituency in Pkosing, what do I do?
Not to
it's not a choice,
but to on who you're going to use as your provider, right?
I have only few. We have how many? We have only less than 5. It's not a choice. So if that is the case, then the people of Kenya should give everybody a mobile phone, and you can now choose whether you want to talk with that or not. There is no choice, my friend.
So your argument is that they should bring down their costs?
Absolutely. We should go and say how much. And I want one media house. In fact, some of these investigative journalists you have, they are doing a lot of crimes and corruption. I think that they have done so well so far there. Let them go now to what I'm telling you, the second tier of corruption, and say how much do they earn and where do they get this money? They get from Wanjiku. And you don't tell me Wanjiku had a choice to do. No. Then the prices should come down. If it is 5 shillings, it should be 1 shilling. If it is 3 shillings, it should be even a cent. And then that is now when we say then Wanjiku has actually gotten what is right. And that we should now, if you are benchmarking the salaries of MPs, we should now benchmark a salary of everybody. Petroleum companies, ICT companies, energy companies. Look at those private companies, my friend. The reason why then we are not talking about them is that because they are private, they are not available for scrutiny. So the only thing which is available for scrutiny, KQ, which is ours, or for example, KA, or you know that, owner treasury, here, Parliament. Parliament, I think we are the bunch pack. Everybody will just go to Parliament, and we don't hide.